You don't.
And Alan always says that she's a fat cat that's really mean to her. She goes, bad, Mr. K.
My pop.
He's very confusing.
Okay, what's it like on Mars?
Well, there's barely any atmosphere, and it's quite chilly there.
Okay. Yeah, it's cold.
There's some ice.
Mars has polar caps. A North Pole and a South Pole that are icy. And they change with the seasons as viewed from Earth. So Mars has seasons because it's tilted on its axis like Earth is. And if the sun is over there and it's tilted toward the sun, then the northern ice cap disappears. And then if it goes on the other side of the sun and the sun's over there, then the southern ice cap disappears. So the ice caps grow and disappear, changing with the seasons.
So is it actually referring to water?
It's not. It's a combination of water, ice, and carbon dioxide, frozen CO2, which we call dry ice. Have y'all ever seen dry ice, frozen CO2? It kind of smokes when it goes away.
Yeah.
Well, they have that on the surface of Mars because Mars is real cold, and it's cold enough at the Martian poles to freeze the carbon dioxide that's floating around in the air. You don't see that on Earth, but it's different on Mars. There are dust storms, planet-wide dust storms, which seem to cause the surface to change because the dust will blow around and then settle, fill in some little craters and areas, and then blow again. And when the dust is in the air, you can't see the surface. So if you're looking at Mars from a telescope from Earth, you'll see craters 1 month, and then look at it a month later, and those craters are gone because there's dust all in the air, blocking your view of the craters. So it looks like the surface of Mars changes, but it doesn't. It doesn't change much. It's mostly just because the dust that's blown around in the air, and you just can't see the surface as well. This is what Mars looks like. It's a red planet. The reason why it's red is because the oxygen that once existed in Mars' atmosphere has sunk into the rocks. And the rocks contain a lot of iron. And when oxygen combines with iron, you form rust, iron oxide. So all the rocks on the planet are rust-colored. The oxygen wasn't in the air because of plants. It was in the air when the planet first formed. There was a lot of oxygen around, just like there was when Earth first formed. The oxygen sinks into the rocks, and now it's red. Yes?
Can you plant stuff on Mars?
You could. Yeah, you could. There are actually plants that exist around here, photosynthetic bacteria and stuff, that could live on Mars and are hardy enough to survive. So we think that maybe there might be life on Mars, but we haven't found any yet. Yeah. Same question? That's a good question. They're looking for it.
Can't they just try to put some there and let it evolve?
They could, if they wanted to fly some there. They don't want to do that.
Why not?
Because they want to see if there's life already there, and if we contaminate it with any of our life forms, we may not be able to distinguish between the two.
Is there life like in that water at the ice cap?
They think there might be, but they don't know. We got a rover crawling around there right now, searching for it.
At the ice cap?
It's not at the ice cap, but it's crawling around on the surface of the
So
planet.
there's absolutely nothing. Will they just like stick some bacteria there?
They could maybe one day.
That sounds like fun.
It would be fun. There's a famous astronomer named Lowell. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
What page are we on, by the way? 174? This is a long reading section, by the way. Percival Lowell, he did a lot of good astronomy work, but he's also kind of known for his mistakes. And one of the mistakes he made was he looked at Mars and he thought he saw little lines on Mars, and these were drawings that he made, but you can't. He just kind of imagined them. He didn't really see them. And not only did he just kind of imagine that he was there, he imagined what they were for. And he said these little he called them canals, were dug by Martians to move water from one place to another on the planet because he thought the planet might be drying up. And so that's kind of what invented the idea of Martians. People living on Mars that have societies and cities and stuff like that. Lowell kind of got that going in the public's head after he saw these canals, which he didn't really see. The picture on the left is what you'd really see from his telescope, and the picture on the right is what he imagined.
Is he stupid?
No, he was very smart and a good astronomer and did a lot of good work. But he just made some mistakes, and it kind of scared everybody. And so for years they wrote about Martians because he said they might be there. So people said, well, he's smart. There must be Martians there if he says there are there. And so there were stories from the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s all about Martians and what they would be like. We know now there aren't any Martians here.
As of now.
Mars consists of a low-lying northern volcanic plains with few craters and highly cratered southern highlands. This means the northern surface is younger because it has fewer craters. So, Mars has a low surface and a high surface, just like the Earth has continents. Again, the continents sit high and the oceans sit low. And we already learned about that on the Earth. It's because the basalt of the oceans is heavier and lays down. And Mars has the same sort of thing. The southern part of Mars sits high, and the northern part of Mars sits low. And scientists aren't sure why that is. They don't think it's the basalt thing like the Earth has. It's some other reason. Maybe it was because when Mars was cooling, the same thing happened on Mercury. Maybe it cooled and shrank, and the bottom half goes in lower than the top half becomes lower than the bottom half because of the shrinking. Maybe that was it. Maybe there was a big meteor that hit the northern part and lowered the whole northern half. They just don't know. But it's true, the southern part sits a little higher than the northern part. We know the northern part is younger than the southern part as far as the surface features, because there are less craters on the northern part. So maybe what happened was a meteor hit the northern side of the planet, lowered the whole northern side, filled in lava from the hot center of Mars, filled in the big crater, and so that means it erased all the craters that existed at the time, and then new craters came in later, but there's not as many as the old craters. They don't really know. The book goes in and talks about it. So. Here's a day of Mars rotating, seen with the Hubble Space Telescope.
This is a photo mosaic of the planet Mars made from 3 separate images acquired with the Hubble Space Telescope. When this mosaic was assembled and the video made in early 1995, it was springtime in Mars's northern hemisphere. The abundance of fluffy white clouds shows that the planet is cooler and drier than when visited earlier by spacecraft in the mid-1970s.
A couple parts you need to know. The Valles Marineris, the huge canyon that goes over half of Mars. It's like the Grand Canyon. Has anyone here ever seen the Grand Canyon? It's a little kind of a little crack in the earth out west there in what state's it in? Wyoming, Nevada, Arizona. Okay. Well, the crack on Mars is called the Valles Marineris, and it's way bigger than the Grand Canyon. I mean, it takes up. It looks like Mars is smiling. And I'll come back to this slide. Let's just look at this picture again. Look at this thing. That may have been something of what Lowell saw. He may have been barely able to see this through his telescope, and so it looked like a canal to him that was dug by the Martians. Look at that thing. Our Grand Canyon could fit in one of these little side cracks right there. And this thing is huge. And the mountains are a lot, the depth of it is way deeper than the Grand Canyon. And the Grand Canyon is deep. I mean, you look over the edge, it's like a mile to the bottom. This is way deeper than that. The Valles Marineris, Mariner Valley. They thought maybe there was an ocean there. Martian mariners would be riding their boats there. Whoops. There's also the Tharsis Bulge. Tharsis is a huge continent on Mars. A bulge that sits way higher in elevation than everything else. And it's due to very early volcanism in the early days of Mars when it was still hot. It's cold now. It's a small planet that has lost all its heat. But in a long time ago, it used to be hot, and there was volcanoes, and it pushed up this huge mound called the Tharsis Bulge. And they show the Tharsis Bulge. It's right here. And you can see giant volcanoes that are extinct on the Tharsis Bulge. The largest volcanoes in the solar system are on Mars. Even bigger than Olympus Mons. Just some pictures of the Mars topography. It also has what's called the Hellas Basin, a large impact feature. And if you turn to the map on page 176, it shows the Hellas Basin right there. There's the Mariner Valley, that crack that's in the middle. Look at that big impact feature there. That's a crater. Blue means real deep. 8 kilometers deep, the Hellas Basin is. That's like 4 or 5 miles. I don't know. 8 kilometers. Less than that. 3 miles. 4 miles. Is anybody a runner? This shows where some of the different. This also shows where things landed. Viking and Pathfinder were different missions that NASA flew there. There's where one of the Vikings landed. You can see the northern half, like I said, is blue. That means it sits down low. The southern half sits up high. The southern half has a lot of craters. The northern half is relatively smooth. See all the craters on the southern half there? And not many on the northern half. There's Olympus Mons, the biggest volcano in the solar system. Twice as high as Mount Everest. How can it get so big? Any reason why the volcanoes on Mars would be so much bigger than the volcanoes on Earth or Venus? There's a good reason.
No erosion.
Good guess. That's probably part of it.
More magma.
Probably not. There's probably more magma on Venus and Earth because they're bigger and warmer inside.
Does the Mars have like plates?
It probably did real early in its formation, but not anytime recently, and that's not what makes the volcanoes so big. Think about the size of the planet.
Not much gravity to pull it back down.
That's exactly it. The moon doesn't, Mars doesn't have much gravity. If you go to Mars, you're going to weigh like 30% of what you weigh on Earth. And this is true for all the features. So if volcanoes, if there's volcanic activity and lava's coming up, pushing the rock up, the rock's going to be pushed up a lot higher because it's not pulled down by the gravity so much. It's not as heavy. And so you get these huge mountains on Mars that you don't get on Earth. And Olympus Mons is the biggest. It's extinct. It's been extinct for at least 100 million years. It's not firing out lava anymore. And it may have been extinct for a lot longer than that. There's another big mountain right there, Elysium Mons.
Is that a volcano too?
Yes, probably so. Yes, they're all dormant as far as we can tell. Here's a little video of if you were to fly over Mariner Valley, the big crack, what it would look like. They've never actually done this, but they take pictures from space and can put it in their little computer's brain, and then the computer can work this out. It's amazing what computers can do now. People are actually exploring Mars virtually with the little 3D glasses and walking around and looking at it inside a computer. The satellites that orbit Mars can get real detailed. Keep in mind, it's real cold there, so if you were actually doing this, although the sun would be out, you'd see the sun, it'd be real cold. The air's real thin. Isn't that cool? To me, that's really neat that they can even do that.
This is what the Earth would look like if you removed all the water.
Yeah, probably.
So this is not like so strange.
Yeah, right. We have water and atmosphere, and that changes the way our planet looks. But if you take it all away, that's what you're left with, just rock. This is a flight over the Tharsis Bulge. There's the big Tharsis Bulge right there. Oh, this is lame. Maybe they'll go in closer. A couple of big volcanoes. Oh, this isn't nearly as good as that other one. Let's fast forward that. There's Olympus Mons right there. No, not, yeah, Olympus Mons.
I really want to squeeze that out.
Ew.
What?
The volcano. Never mind.
So like I say, Mars has the largest volcanoes in the solar system. They're extinct for at least 100 million years. Olympus Mons is the largest. The height of the volcanoes is due to Mars' low gravity.
Does Mons mean volcano?
Mons means mountain.
No.
And many mountains are volcanoes. That's how they got there. So, not all of them though. Some of them formed by plate tectonics here on Earth. But on other planets that don't have plate tectonics, just lava pushing up from the center of the Earth that's hot, rising because convection, will push up a mountain. So that's how you get mountains on a lot of these other planets. We would suspect continental plates colliding, causing mountains, if the mountains were in a line. But we don't see that on Mars. You got it, Ellie?
Yeah, I got it.
Look at, there's Olympus Mons.
Are you gonna go back?
Do I have to go back?
No, I meant to the other side, the water one.
This one?
Oh, no, I guess it's one.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Mars has much evidence of water. Past water, including runoff and outflow channels. There was one, we know there was water on Mars. Because there's you can see where water has run. You can see riverbeds and deltas and erosion from water. Billions of years ago, Mars had oceans, rivers, and running water.
It could be lava, couldn't it?
No.
Rate slower.
Yeah, lava runs different. It makes different, leaves different evidence. They know it was water, and so the question comes: what happened to all the water? And why did there used to be water and not now? Well, one thing, the sun used to be a lot hotter than it is, and so when the sun was a little bit bigger and hotter, Mars was a lot warmer. Warm enough to support water. Also, internally, Mars had a lot of heat, and that kept the planet a lot warmer. So Mars, if you go back 3.5 billion years, when the Earth was still really young, Mars had a lot of water, and oceans probably. So, Mars was small though, loses its heat very quickly. The sun gets a little cooler, and suddenly Mars is cold. All the water sunk down into the crust of Mars. And so Mars has a layer underneath its soil of permafrost, ice, that if you dig down into the Martian soil a ways, you'll hit ice. It's just like in Canada. Canada has permafrost, if you go far enough up into Canada. And it's just solid ice, and it goes down. And there's a great movie. Do I have it here? Total Recall. They just remade this movie, but the original Total Recall, it talks about some alien technology go to Mars, and they melt that permafrost, and the oceans reappear on Mars. It's a cool movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger, y'all know who he is. It's a great movie, Total. They remade Total Recall. I hadn't seen the remake.
I don't like that at all.
The original one was freaking
It's not
awesome.
about that at all, though.
Yeah, it's different story. Yeah, yeah.
Is that extra credit for this class? Or
Yeah, it's extra credit for this class. You can watch it. It's great. I guarantee you'll like it. It's a good movie. It's a cool story.
Did the water ever evaporate?
Some of it does evaporate as gas and leaves, but a lot of it is still there, frozen as permafrost.
Would it rain?
Well, there's not enough gravity to keep that water, and it just kind of left. But it could rain. If you melted all the water all of a sudden, and it suddenly became water and gas, you'd have rain there and weather and clouds. But again, you'd have to warm the planet up somehow. Some scientists have suggested a quick way to warm up Mars. You know what it is?
Global warming?
That's a slow way to do it.
But never mind then.
It's a good way to do it, but it would take a long time.
Get everyone to
We
push
planted
Mars.
a bunch of
Capture
trees there over
rockets and
time, will
fly
an
it
atmosphere
closer
be
to the sun.
created?
Nope, that'd be too hard. What's that?
I said if you planted a bunch of plants there over time, would an atmosphere be created?
Probably.
It'd leave.
Yeah, that's called terraforming.
Wouldn't that leave though? Like all the air?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for Mars to hold an atmosphere. That's one of the problems. But it could. It's got enough gravity to hold an atmosphere. It wouldn't be as thick as ours.
So you mean to say that all of the gases made by the planets would leave?
Aha, that's funny. They wouldn't all leave though. So it would retain a decent atmosphere, and you could
What were
grow
you
plants
gonna
on
say
it.
about Mars?
One thing you could do to heat it up real fast is you could deflect an asteroid at the planet.
Oh.
And if the asteroid hits the planet, if it's a big enough asteroid, y'all saw what happened in the video of Earth when the asteroid hit, it got real hot, didn't it? So you could get Mars real hot very quickly that way and melt all the water, and then you'd have oceans again.
How long did it take for it to cool back down?
Oh, thousands of years, maybe millions.
Not that.
And we could live there while it was warm.
I have a question about
It's a good idea.
Wait.
How much warmer would it get?
Unless you hit it so hard that it knocks a bunch of debris off of Mars, and then those things end up hitting the Earth and killing all of us.
Yay.
That would be bad.
Okay.
So just let's wait and think about this.
Is there any way to
Wait, so you
about
consider-
the gravity or magnetic field of the planet? Is there any way
To change the magnetic field?
like the gravity or like somehow impact that?
Hard to change the gravity, you just have to put more stuff there.
I'm gonna see if there's any
Question.
You'd have to make the planet bigger, which would be hard to do. Yeah, magnetic field, they don't really know how that works very well, but it's spinning metal inside the planet, so you somehow have to get spinning metal inside the planet. Mars doesn't have much of a magnetic field.
They said like if Earth got hit, it'd be hot like an oven. So if Mars got hit, would it turn to Earth temperatures?
Initially it'd be way hotter than Earth, and then there'd be a cooling phase where it cooled down, but you'd melt all the permafrost, and you'd have oceans on the planet again, and it would take probably a long time for that to completely cool down. There's all kinds of science fiction novels about the things y'all are talking about, putting plants on it, terraforming it so things can live there, and then moving humans there eventually. This might take thousands and thousands of years, but maybe one day it'll eventually be done.
Does the water have to be salty to qualify as an ocean?
No?
How long does it take to get to Mars from here?
Our fastest crafts can do it in about 8 months, 6 months. More like 2 years if you were going a little slower. It just depends.
going by plane.
This is a lot of the evidence of water that we see.
Whoa.
And you could just tell where water has come out, and
Looks like flippers.
Do you think, was there life there?
they think there might have been. And other than the fact that life developed very quickly on Earth in the oceans, within 100 million years, life developed in our oceans. If that happened, because Mars had oceans for maybe 5 or 10 times that long, why wouldn't it develop there? But there was a meteor hit the Earth that came from Mars. We know it came from Mars because it's makeup. And they cracked open that meteor and they looked in it, and there were little things that looked like bacteria. And so that's even more evidence there may have been life on Mars at one
What if
point.
there were like people there?
Yeah, we haven't seen any evidence of anything bigger than bacteria, but maybe there was at some point.
Well, would the fossils still be there?
Probably would still be there, yeah. They've lasted billions of years on the Earth. Why wouldn't they last that long on Mars? So that's one reason why they have all these missions to Mars to crawl around and look for life. By the way, Mission to Mars is another movie that I have. Does anyone have that one?
I have a question about the extra.
Do you want to check out Mission to Mars?
I have a question.
Mission to Mars, Sam Bowling. Says you check that out on August 22nd. Did you know it's October now?
Yes.
Have you had time to see it?
Yes,
Why don't you return that?
yes.
I have a question about the extraterrestrials.
Yes.
I watched Contact a few days ago.
Nice.
So would it still count?
Yes.
Do I have to actually rent the movie?
No, you can take the quiz. If you pass the quiz, I'll give you the bonus point.
All right, sweet.
Check this out. This is how we know there's permafrost there. A meteor hit right here, and it impacted, and it melted the permafrost, and the permafrost splashed out of the crater, and then refroze. And that's the splash out from the crater, and then refreezing. See the splash? And right here in the middle, the meteor hits, the water, it becomes liquid, it goes up in kind of a mound, and then refreezes.
Just like that.
And so you're left with a big thing in the middle.
They should look through that.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, look through that for life.
It looks very swell. Are there any giant blobs of water in space?
It's more of the surface.
I guess
it looks
space
like.
ocean.
Yes, a comet.
No, I'm saying, actually, never mind.
It's so cold, it's frozen.
Yeah, I was thinking of the other way around.
Look at that. Doesn't it look like water has run down these cliffs? There's lots of evidence for water. Look at this. In 1999, they took this picture of where water had run down a mountain billions of years ago. And look, in 2005, they took another picture, and look at that.
What is that?
They don't know. Something's changed. Here it wasn't there, and there it was there. So is that what they think was maybe there was an impact? They hit right here, a meteor impact, and it melted some of the permafrost, and that ran down and then refroze, and it's brighter colored. That's what they think happened. Or maybe there was some internal heating, like a little bit of magma or something that's still left inside Mars, rose a little bit and heated that up, and it melted and ran down and refroze. They don't know what happened, but they know something happened. So there is a little bit of activity still going on Mars. We have flown lots of missions to Mars. 7 spacecraft we've landed. Vikings 1 and 2 in the 1970s were the first to land there, and were very successful missions. Pathfinder looked like a little robot about that big that had wheels on it that rolled around and took pictures and scooped samples. Pathfinder is no longer operating.
What happened to it?
They just they have a little solar panel that kind of got covered up in dust, and it just quit supplying
Can't they just
energy.
use another-
There's also other things that wear out over time, and they can't fix them. What was that?
Can't they use another spacecraft to wipe the solar panel of another spacecraft?
The problem is,
Yeah.
when they fly these, and I'll show you a video in just a second of these things flying in, it's hard to land things close together because you're flying something years to get to a planet, and if you're off just a little bit, over time that's going to end up being a lot, and so it's hard to land things in the same spot. Spirit and Opportunity were even bigger rovers, and they worked for a couple of years. I don't think they're working anymore. Phoenix was another one that didn't roll around. It just landed in one spot and did samples and stuff. But the best one is Curiosity. And that's what I want to show you here. Curiosity, and these are all pictures from showing some of the rovers and such.
Is that the one that landed with like the giant bubbles around it?
Yeah, that was a Spirit and Opportunity landed with airbags.
Spirit and Opportunity 1?
No, there are 2 craft. Spirit was one and Opportunity was another. This is what they looked like. But this is the one, Curiosity. Look how big it is. And this is a great video showing how it landed. This will make you proud to be an American and associated with NASA.
Does at least.
Look at this thing. This is an amazing video. Can you pull that blind for me back there, Ellie?
That is
This one's on there now. That's leaving Earth.
So why are there dots everywhere?
Oh, great.
Let's just say it fall in the background like.
What if it like hit someone who's living there? The one life form on Mars.
Is that actual what they see or?
I think it's artists' drawings.
They actually have
It does have some actual pictures of it. I'm not sure.
That thing could have a camera.
I like the old way they used to do it.
It's interesting, you can't control this thing by a remote control because it takes light like 2 hours to get there. If you said turn left, it wouldn't hear the turn left command for 2 hours.
Just fall off.
How do they do it?
It's got a computer on board that does it automatically. It thinks for it.
So it doesn't get sentient. Try to kill someone.
It says, look around and go where you see something interesting. And start digging. They can send it commands if they want to, but they got to understand it's not going to be able to do anything with those commands for a couple hours after you send them. So they'll send programs up to it, like load a program on it.
It would be so fun if it's all still running around. Why is wheels shaped like that? Wouldn't you have a ton of dust stuck in it?
So
They've already got programmed in it where they want it to go, and it has to look for the features that tell it where it's supposed to go. Locate those features, and then it'll head towards it. They already know what the whole planet looks like because we've mapped it out previously with other satellites that are going around Mars. So it knows where it is, just by the way the terrain looks.
Can they make changes to the map?
how fast can it
It's
go?
like magical.
I don't think it goes very fast. Few miles an hour.
Blows up.
So they told it to go to this mountain and dig.
How is that going to dig?
Wow.
What is it doing?
It has a laser eye, you know.
Shoot it. I want to catch something.
We'll finish that see that online.
I don't want to.
It's an amazing